Welcome to The Silent Verdict.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray.
Imagine you wake up one morning, look out your front window, and there it is. A brand new, government-owned camera pointed right at your house, recording 24/7. What do you do?
This isn't some hypothetical question from a sci-fi movie. For one family in Arkansas, this became their everyday reality. And honestly, their story makes all of us ask some really tough questions about technology, privacy, and our rights.
All right, so let's get into it. We're not talking about a huge metropolis here. This all went down in a small town, on a quiet residential street that pretty much became ground zero in a fight for privacy.
So earlier this year, in 2024, Charlie and Angie Wolf suddenly found themselves under constant surveillance. A new camera popped up on a pole right across the street, and its lens was aimed in one very particular direction: their home.
Now, the city's official reason? Oh, it was just for public safety, to monitor traffic. But for the Wolf family, the reality on the ground felt completely different. Every single time they pulled out of their driveway, every time a friend or family member came to visit, their movements were being recorded. Officials actually claimed the fact that it was watching their house was just a mere coincidence.
And we're not talking about some blurry, grainy footage here. This camera system was sophisticated. It could log specific details, things like bumper stickers or even dents on a car. It was, in effect, creating a searchable, warrantless log of the Wolf family's entire life and the lives of every single person who visited them.
This wasn't just some abstract legal issue either. It had a real, tangible, and chilling effect on their lives. The surveillance was so unsettling that their own grandchildren, in their words, felt too creeped out to even come over and visit anymore.
And that feeling of constantly being watched, well, it wasn't just a personal complaint. It raised a huge constitutional red flag. This was about way more than just feeling uncomfortable. It was about one of our most fundamental American rights.
Right at the heart of this whole thing is the Fourth Amendment, the part of the Constitution that protects all of us from unreasonable searches. So the big question becomes, does aiming a high-tech 24/7 camera at someone's private home, logging every move without a warrant, does that cross the line into an unreasonable search?
So as you can imagine, the family and the city saw this in two completely different ways. And this is where the conflict really came to a head.
So on one hand, you have the Wolves. They're saying, look, this is a serious constitutional problem and a massive intrusion into our private life. But the city? They framed it totally differently. They insisted it was just a public safety tool, that the view of their home was purely incidental, and their main defense, get this, was that the camera itself wasn't physically moving. I'm not kidding. When the family first went to the police chief to talk about their concerns, that was the actual response they got. 4 simple words that were basically a brick wall. It's not moving. It really felt like the conversation was over before it could even start.
But for the Wolf family, it was not over. Not by a long shot. They kept getting shut down, but they absolutely refused to take no for an answer.
So, what do you do when you hit a wall like that? You find a way to go around it or through it. After the police chief dismissed them, they sent a formal letter to the city council. No luck. Then they showed up in person to plead their case. Again, rejected. So that's when they made one final crucial call.
So what was it? After getting shot down 3 separate times, what made this 4th attempt the one that finally broke through? The answer really wasn't about what they said. It was all about who was saying it. The whole situation turned on a dime because of a single letter from a very specific kind of law firm.
They contacted the Institute for Justice, or IJ, and this was the game changer. See, IJ is a national nonprofit law firm, and they specialize in one thing: suing the government over constitutional rights. They have a massive track record of winning these cases. So when a letter from IJ shows up, officials know it's not a bluff. It's a serious threat of a lawsuit that they are very, very likely to lose.
And that is exactly what happened. The Institute for Justice sent its letter on July 17th, laying out all the serious Fourth Amendment problems. And what do you know? Shortly after that, the camera that was famously not moving moved. The standoff was over.
A huge victory for the Wolf family, no question. But their story, while their personal battle was won,
It shines a really bright light on a much larger debate happening all across the country.
Because this was never just about one single camera. Remember that contract the city signed? It wasn't for one device, it was for 5. So yeah, the Wolf's camera was moved, but the other 4 were still out there, watching other streets, and maybe other homes.
In this town, Greers Ferry, they're not alone in this. Big cities like Denver and Austin have actually seen this technology, understood how intrusive it can be, and have backed out of similar contracts because of all the potential problems.
So in the end, the Wolf family got their privacy back. They won. But just think for a second about what it took. They had to go from the police chief to the city council and then finally get a national law firm involved just to get the government to stop filming their own front yard. It leaves you with this one big, lingering question. How hard should any of us really have to fight for the basic privacy of our own home?